The Carolina Panthers were not supposed to look like this, and it all starts with Bryce Young. One sideline shot told the whole story. The calm face that never changed, no matter how bad last season got, was gone. Instead, you could see fire in his eyes, jaw tight, emotions finally breaking through. That was the first hint that something was different. Not just a better game, not just a hot streak, but a new version of the quarterback this franchise has been praying for since the day he walked in the building. For a long time, people talked about Bryce Young like a question mark. Was he too small? Was the situation too messy? Was the front office already giving up on him without saying it out loud? Fans watched loss after loss and started to accept that this might just be who the Panthers are now. Then, out of nowhere, the team that looked lost suddenly started closing games, sweeping division rivals, and pushing into real playoff talk. It did not feel like a slow climb. It felt like someone flipped a switch and the whole identity of this team changed overnight. That is why this rise feels almost impossible to explain at first glance. A quarterback who would not show emotion is now dragging his team through overtime battles. A roster that felt thin is suddenly playing with edge and confidence, and opponents are clearly shocked by what they are seeing on tape. But this did not happen by accident. There was a plan forming behind the scenes while everyone was busy counting Carolina out. And once you look back at last year's chaos and the moves that followed, you start to see exactly how the Panthers quietly built the foundation for this explosion. But before we jump into that, hit like and subscribe button for more Panthers and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 100 likes on this video. The Carolina Panthers were stuck in confusion last season, sitting at 5 wins and 12 losses, with an attack that never settled on a clear identity. Drives stalled, leads slipped away, and the quarterback spot felt like a revolving door that never stopped spinning. Fans were tired, the locker room felt the pressure, and it looked like the front office might have no clear direction for how to fix any of it. This was not just a bad year. It was the kind of season that can convince a franchise to start over from zero. Instead of blowing everything up, the front office chose a different path. They doubled down on key pieces, locked in J.C. Horn, and used a top pick on T. McMillan, a rookie wideout with real number one potential. They brought in steady veterans like Bobby Brown, added muscle in the trenches with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, and kept faith in guys like Tommy Tremble who fit the tough, smart style they wanted. These were not headline-chasing moves. They were careful steps to build a real roster across all 3 phases, the kind that can survive injuries, long road trips, and close games in December. All of that work had one clear purpose, even if nobody said it out loud. The Panthers were trying to create a real support system around Bryce Young, something strong enough to let his talent actually show up on Sundays. Better protection, a true number 1 target, a more stable defense and special teams unit. All of it was designed to give their quarterback a fair stage. The question was simple but huge. With this new structure around him, would Bryce Young stay the same, or would he turn into the player Carolina believed he could be? Bryce Young walked into this season with more noise around him than almost any young quarterback in the league. His first 2 years were full of hits, doubts, and questions about whether Carolina had picked the right guy, and that pressure does not just vanish. He is not a rookie anymore, there are no training wheels, and every throw now feels like a verdict in front of the entire league. Instead of folding, he has started to answer with calm command at the line, sharper reads, and a confidence that you can feel even before the ball leaves his hand. The numbers tell a story that looks nothing like the old version of Bryce Young. Through just over half the season, he has thrown for around 1,962 yards, with 14 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. And those totals are rising as he heats up late in the year. His recent stretch has been the real turning point, including that monster performance in Atlanta, where he set a franchise record with 448 passing yards and completely took over in overtime. He did it while dealing with that painful ankle issue that could have kept him out, staying in the pocket, firing down the field, and proving that his ceiling is much higher than people thought when they were counting every bad throw last year. What really changes everything for Carolina is how often Bryce Young is now closing games instead of simply managing them. He already has 10 career game-winning drives since entering the league, the most in the NFL over that span, and his teammates clearly respond to the way he keeps attacking when the clock gets tight. You can see linemen blocking a little longer and receivers finishing routes a little harder because they believe something good can happen on any snap. That mindset is powerful, and it only works because the group in front of him has finally grown into a real strength, which is where the Panthers' biggest hidden advantage starts to show. Quietly, the Carolina Panthers' offensive line has turned into the unit that holds this whole rise together. Instead of leaking pressure and forcing Bryce Young to run for his life, this group now gives him clean pockets and time to see the field. You can feel the difference on key downs when the ball actually has time to travel down the field instead of dying on quick throws. That change up front does not show up on highlight reels, but defenses feel it every single snap when their first rush move does not get home and they have to chase routes longer than they planned. The front office did not just hope the line would fix itself. They went and found the right people. Damian Lewis has been a force at left guard with a grading profile near the very top of his position, especially in the run game where he moves defenders out of lanes instead of just standing in the way. On the other side, Robert Hunt has brought a steady presence, firm in pass protection and strong when the call is to pull or climb to the second level. Add in better chemistry across the full line, and suddenly plays that used to blow up in the backfield now turn into patient progress, setting up second and short instead of third and long. That stability has allowed the coaching staff, led on offense by Dave Canales, to open things up in a way that simply was not possible before. Longer developing concepts, deeper route trees, and more aggressive shots are now part of the normal script instead of rare surprises. When you mix that with a quarterback who is finally trusted to attack and a pocket that holds up long enough for him to do it, you get a very different looking attack. The real fun starts when you add a true top target into that mix, because that is where T. McMillan turns this line improvement into an entirely new offensive identity. The Carolina Panthers finally have that kind of wide receiver who changes the way a defense lines up before the snap, and his name is T. McMillan. He came into the league as a rookie taken near the top of the draft with far less noise than some other young wideouts, but he has quickly turned into the player defense's circle first on the scouting report. He can win deep, he can win across the middle, and he can win on the quick stuff when the offense just needs a simple answer. By the time defenses realized he was not just another young target learning on the job, he was already carving up coverages and swinging games in Carolina's favor. What really makes T. McMillan special is how the staff uses him. Some plays he is outside as the true number one, other snaps he is in the slot as the second or third man in the formation, and he still finds space. Through 11 weeks, he was sitting around 748 receiving yards, with 4 touchdowns and close to 14 yards per catch. And those numbers do not come from winning in just one spot. Coaches move him inside, outside, short side, wide side, anything to keep defenses from locking one corner and one safety on him all night. They know he can win one-on-one, but they would rather force the defense to guess where he is coming from every single down. With T. McMillan as that kind of moving target, the whole Panthers offense feels less predictable and more dangerous. Safeties hesitate before crashing the run, corners are slower to jump routes, and that half second of doubt is all Bryce Young needs when the pocket holds up. Third downs feel less like a scramble for answers and more like chances to pick the matchup they want. Red zone trips come with a clear first read instead of a hope and a prayer. This is the kind of player who gives an offense a real identity. But for Carolina to turn this rise into something that lasts, they also need the other side of the ball to match that standard, especially when it comes to stopping the run and surviving injuries in the middle of the defense. The Carolina Panthers defense has quietly grown into one of the most solid run units in the league, and that is a huge reason this rise even makes sense. Early last year, teams pushed them around on the ground, especially late in games. But since week 5 this season, the numbers tell a very different story. They sit around 8th in defensive rush EPA and 10th in defensive rushing success rate, which means opponents are getting stuffed far more often than they expect. You could see it in the way they slowed Bijan Robinson in that second half against Atlanta, closing lanes, rallying to the ball, and forcing the Falcons into tough third downs instead of easy chains. The catch is that this improvement has come at the same time as real pain in the middle of the lineup. Christian Roseboom is fighting through hip and hamstring trouble, Trevin Wallace has been dealing with a shoulder issue, and suddenly the depth chart at linebacker is getting tested in prime time. That has opened the door for players like Claudin Chirelis, undrafted free agent rookie Bam Martin-Scott, and Maema Njongmeta to take snaps that used to belong to more established names. They might not have the same league-wide profile, but they have brought energy, speed to the ball, and a willingness to fill gaps without fear, which keeps this run defense from sliding back into old habits even when starters are not fully healthy. To protect that progress, the front office did not wait for the offseason. They acted right now by bringing back Jacoby Windman on the practice squad, a linebacker who already knows the building and has played under position coach Pete Hansen before. That kind of move will not dominate headlines, but it matters when you are about to face Christian McCaffrey and a San Francisco attack that loves to test your discipline on every snap. Carolina is trying to make sure they still have fresh, trusted legs in the middle when the season gets tight. The real question now is simple and heavy at the same time. Can this improved defense match up with the 49ers on a big stage, while Bryce Young and the offense hit all the right keys needed to steal a game that could reshape the entire playoff picture? The Carolina Panthers step into this primetime matchup knowing that how they use Bryce Young will decide everything. San Francisco's pass defense has quietly slipped near the bottom of the league, sitting around 29th in success rate against the pass and 30th in total pass EPA. And the pass rush has not looked the same without a fully healthy Nick Bosa wrecking every pocket. This is not the night to play safe and hide the quarterback. This is the night to let Bryce Young attack early, push the ball down the field, and force the 49ers secondary to prove they can survive 4 full quarters of timing routes and deep shots when the Carolina protection is holding up. The second pillar is what happens once the Panthers cross midfield. San Francisco finishes drives at an elite clip, hitting touchdowns on around 73% of red zone trips and keeping chains moving on 44% of third downs, while Carolina sits closer to the middle of the pack with numbers near 48% in the red zone and 36% on third down. That gap cannot stay the same on Monday night. Field goals will not be enough in that stadium with that crowd. When Bryce Young gets short fields off returns or defensive stops, the offense has to turn them into 7s, not 3s. Staying aggressive on third and even fourth down so the 49ers never feel comfortable trading scores. The last piece is the one that has quietly decided almost every Panthers game this year, the ball security battle that ties straight into the playoff math. Both teams sit on 15 turnovers this season, but Carolina is 4 wins and 0 losses when it wins that margin, and opponents have turned Panthers' mistakes into 68 points compared to 51 points off 49ers giveaways. Against a weapon like Christian McCaffrey, 1 loose throw or 1 fumble can change the whole night. The good news is that Carolina likely holds the edge in the kicking game with Ryan Fitzgerald steady on field goals, while San Francisco turns to Matt Gay after moving on from Eddie Pinheiro. Add all of it together and you get a simple picture: beat the 49ers and model shoot your playoff odds up near the halfway mark, lose, and you slide back into that crowded group fighting just to stay alive. What that really means for the future of this franchise is bigger than one chart or one percentage. And that is where the story of this so-called unexplainable rise takes its most important turn. The Carolina Panthers have turned late-season football into something very different from what their fans got used to over the last few years. Instead of checking draft order tables in November, people in Charlotte are checking playoff chances and circling must-win games on the calendar. Around the league, they are no longer talked about as an easy date on the schedule. They are on national nights, facing serious opponents with real stakes on the line. That shift in how people see this team says just as much as the standings, because respect in this league is not handed out, it is earned snap after snap. Inside the building, this run changes the whole outlook on the future. A young core built around Bryce Young, T. McMillan, a stronger line, and a tougher defense now has proof that their style can work against good opponents. Not just in theory, but in real games that come down to the final minutes. Free agents see a team that is climbing, not stuck. Coaches see that their ideas translate on the field. The front office sees that patience around their quarterback choice, their draft picks, and their quieter signings was not wasted. When you go from noise and doubt to meaningful games and pressure weeks, it tells every person in that locker room that the path they chose is actually leading somewhere. For the fans, this is about much more than one Monday night or one playoff push. It is about finally feeling like the Panthers are building something that can last, something that does not fall apart the moment one season goes wrong. The rise may look sudden from the outside, but it has been built brick by brick through smarter moves, hard lessons, and a group that refused to quit on each other. The real mystery now is not how Carolina got here, it is how far this group can climb if they keep stacking seasons like this. And that question is what will keep every eye on the Panthers long after this year ends.